Well, due to the ongoing conflict in the Ukraine, America has put sanctions on Russia. So Russia came up with a list of sanctions that they're putting on everybody else. And one of those is they're going to stop exporting power tubes for amplifiers. Now, the brands that are being affected are all owned by are mostly owned by Electro Harmonics, and they own all these tube companies right here. This is Electro Harmonics. They own Tung Sol, that's one of my favorites, Electro Harmonics, EH Gold, Genelex Gold Lion, that's another one of my favorites, Mullard, Svetlana, and Sovtech. And I do like Sovtech tubes as well. So these are the brands that are going to be difficult to get a hold of until at least the end of 2022. So they said we're doing this ban till the end of 2022. So you got Tung Sol, Electro Harmonics, EH Gold, Genelex Gold Line, Mullard, Svetlana, and Sovtech are going to be difficult to get a hold of. Okay. If you look on the Tube Depot website, I'm just looking at 12AX7 preamp tubes right here. Here's an Electro Harmonics. Sorry, product not for sale. JJ 12AX7. Sorry, not for sale. Genelex. Sorry, not for sale. So there is a real, quote unquote shortage. Let's see if we can buy a. They have 0 of these on hand for $549. But so anyway, yeah, the tube shortage is definitely happening right now. It's difficult to get a hold of these tubes. Is it going to last till the end of 2022? And the other thing about tubes is a lot of people, even though were all these new tubes available, they were buying old stock, new old stock. So how much of that is there? I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of new old stock. A buddy of mine actually has 100,000 tubes. Just a friend of mine who bought out a store when they closed, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I can't remember, but it's got 100,000 tubes. There's people that do radio tubes and collect tubes from radios, and you know, there's a lot of tubes in the world. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is don't panic yet. Don't panic yet. Don't give up on your tube amp yet. I mean, you get on eBay and you can find, still a lot of tubes. And JJ Tubes is is still producing tubes. The guy says, well, there used to be uh they used to have lead times of 1 month. Now it has a lead time of 6 months. So, I mean, you can probably still get them, and that's without them ramping up their production. Uh, the the JJ tubes are from Slovakia, so they do have. Here's a JJ tube. See what they got on this one here. Not for sale. Um, but JJ Tubes is in Slovakia, so it's not under the Russian ban. Russia can't stop them from exporting tubes. So I personally believe that these tubes are going to be very popular in the next, year or so. Um, and there's lots of stores that have, tubes in them, vintage guitar stores, guitar repairman, amp repairman. There's a lot of hi-fi stores that have, and I'm talking about online as well as, in person. But, I know a vintage amp store guy's got a whole rack of tubes, man, a bunch of them. So in terms of the user, I've heard it said that Fender's not producing as much amps because they provide tubes with their amps. So, they're going to cut down on their production, but that doesn't affect you if you already have a tube amp, you know? And the other thing is when you buy a tube amp, it could have, good tubes in it. And tubes are meant to last for thousands of hours. You know, I've heard it say it's recommended after 1,000 hours, but I mean, I know people that have had tubes in their amps, me included, for 5, 10 years, you know? And if you buy a military grade tube is meant to last 10,000 hours. And that's under pretty good heavy use. It's got to be well made because you can't have it on the front line and then, have it go out. So if you buy a military grade tube, and there's websites online that buy old stock of military tubes, just tons of them. Um, so you can still get tubes, so don't panic yet. And the other thing is if you have tubes in your amp and you want to save them, just turn your amp down a little bit. Turn your amp down a little bit and then use a pedal to get your overdrive. And it may not be the purest tone that you're looking for but if you want to save your tubes, I mean, if you're really worried about a tube shortage, then, just back off the amp a little bit and get your overdrive from a different source, and you'll probably double the life of your tubes doing that. When you're really what I call railing an amp, it can wear out some tubes. Now, having said that, I've railed amps, 2 to 3 times a week, in loud rehearsals and in band situations, and they've lasted for years. Years playing them loud as hell on 7 or 8, 3 to 4 times a week. I used to gig 3 to 4 times a week, and my amp was always cranked up, and my tubes lasted for years, years. So, there is a tube shortage on these brands of tubes, but don't panic yet. If you want to stock up, that's going to also cause more of a panic. You know what I'm saying? Eh, But if you want to have an extra set of tubes, I always have an extra set of tubes around in case mine go bad. So there's nothing wrong with having a couple extra sets of tubes around. But I mean, if you panic and buy a whole bunch of tubes, you're also going to cause more of a shortage. So these are just things to think about. But yeah, there is an actual tube shortage on Tongue Sol, Electro Harmonics, EH Gold, Genelex Gold line, Mullard, Svetlana, and Sovtek. So just take it for what it is.